Okay, well, I want to welcome you to our second breakout session for the afternoon. Today we have Barbara Applebaum, and I just want to give a brief introduction, but we are going to leave about 15 minutes for question and answer. At the end of the session, there will be two of us walking around with microphones, so please raise your hand at that time, and we'll come over and you'll be able to ask the question. Barbara inspires hope through mindful health and a meaningful life by combining healthy living, spirituality, and neuroscience principles. She helps people understand how to be proactive in their health care versus reactive in their sick care so they can feel great in their body and in their life. Her greatest wish is to never hear a person say, I should be taking better care of myself. So please welcome Barbara.
Thank you very much. Can everybody in the back hear me when I speak at this volume? Wonderful. Okay. Thank you all for being here. I know it's kind of getting late in the afternoon. It's been a very long day, and I promise that we will end at 3:30. We'll do some Q&A if you want to stick around, and then I'll have you out of here on time. So obviously today we're talking about living well with MS. To start with, I'll give you a brief background on me. I was diagnosed 9.5 years ago. And ever since then, I've become a motivational speaker, a published author, and a wellness coach and consultant. The published author, if you ever want to check me out, is a book called Live in Wellness Now, which is on Amazon. And it's basically a proactive guide to living well. And you can track your medical, nutrition, fitness, and spirituality all in one place. The motivational speaking, wellness coaching, and consulting, you can find me. I'll have my social media links up at the end, so you can find me all over the internet. If you're interested in connecting, I'd love to hear from you. So what I primarily do is I inspire hope through mindful health and a meaningful life. And you might be asking, what is mindful health? Well, mindful health is all about your brain, because with a healthy brain, you have a healthy body, as everybody who's spoken today has made clear, correct? Thank you. And then a meaningful life is all about giving back, because once you've achieved what you want to achieve, the greatest gift of all is to be able to pay it forward. So I teach about that as well. A disclaimer for today, I am not an MD. Everything I say, everything I discuss has to do with the research I've done, which is quite extensive, and I used to work in healthcare on the business side for the majority of my career. But I am not a doctor. I want you to know that. So if you have, let's say, taken a nugget of information that I've discussed today and you want to try it, I highly recommend and strongly urge you to talk to your doctor first before doing it, to make sure it works with your protocol and your regime. My story. You know, I did everything right. Starting when I was 14 years old, I went on my first diet because I thought I was fat. I was really just chubby. But at 14, I went on Weight Watchers. And I learned what it was to eat low-fat, non-fat, protein, vegetables, fruit, minimal bread, and really try to be healthy. And I stayed slim primarily through to my 40s. In college, I started exercising. I lifted weights. I did aerobics. I walked 3 to 4 to 5 miles a day. I was so active. And then, lo and behold, on a Thursday morning at 11:23 in the morning, it was April 23rd, I'm writing a proposal for work, and all of a sudden my right hand starts to tingle. Now, many of you experience that, of course, right? Only in my mind, I'd never had that before except for when it was a migraine, because I was a migraine sufferer. So I thought, oh, God, I really need this today. I'm super busy, but fine. I put my pen down, I got up, I went and got a cup of coffee, I took some migraine medication, I went back to work. Lo and behold, about an hour or 2 hours later, I thought, that's really funny. Now my whole forearm is tingling. I haven't gotten the headache, and I really don't know what the heck is going on, and I don't have time for this. So I took more medication, and I went back to work. Fast forward, 3-4 days later, I start to realize that you could draw a line down my center, and the whole right side of my body was numb, and I had lost partial vision out of my left eye. And my words to myself, staring at myself in the mirror that night, were, something is dreadfully wrong. I was in healthcare at the time, so I knew the people to reach out to, and I did. And after 3 weeks and a litany of very uncomfortable tests, as you all well know, you've been through them yourselves, they said, we thought it was a stroke, it wasn't. We thought it was a brain tumor, it isn't. We're not sure, but maybe it could be MS. Let's just wait and see if this happens again. And I was like, wait and see if it happens again? This is my life. I'm not playing Russian roulette here. So I went and sought out a specialist. Many of you know him, Dr. Barry Arneson, down at University of Chicago, who's like a grandpa to me. And I'll never forget, he walked in the room after examining all my test results and after asking me a litany of questions to which he seemed to already know the answer. And he sat back in his chair and he folded his hands, and in front of me and my whole family, he said, "My dear, beyond a shadow of a doubt, you have MS." And that day was the most pivotal day in my life. As many of you have experienced similar, it changes everything. And all I kept thinking of, wasn't I doing it all right? And what I have come to subsequently learn is that there is no right. There is right for you, right for your body. And that's what we're going to talk about today. I learned, this is one of my favorite quotes from Rumi, "The wound is the place where the light enters you." We learn, we grow from our wounds. We learn and we grow from adversity. And from MS, my whole life has changed. And I have to say, for the better. Yes, I would give it back if I could, but since I can't, let's make the best of it. So wellness. Wellness is a word that is thrown out so much these days that I know a lot of people are probably wondering, what does it really mean? Does it mean I'm healthy? Not necessarily. Wellness is an active process through which people become aware of and make choices towards a more successful existence. It is not illness. Illness is disease or dis-ease. Wellness is living your best possible life. It's about balance. It's about bringing together your mind, body, and spirit. It's a foundation. The current MS Society wellness programs include things that social media revealed that there's an interest for. People are curious about diet, exercise, vitamins, supplements, etc. And when I was in Dallas last year, co-chairing this think tank for the New Wellness Initiative, we took all that into consideration. One of the quotes we were reading from someone on the social media said, "I've tried to find a diet specifically for MS. All I hear is to eat right, eat healthy. Well, if I knew what worked, I'd give it a try." How often have you heard that or felt that with anything with MS? If you thought it would work, you'd give it a try. But how do we know if it works? That's the million-dollar question. How do we know? And in many cases, as Dr. Model said this morning, we don't. And so research is starting to look into it. However, we're going to talk in a little bit about things that work in general terms, so it can't hurt to possibly try them even though you have MS. Here are a few society wellness programs that are currently going on, and I took this straight from the society webpage, so if you're interested in learning more, it's on their website. So you see, it's exercise, it's yoga, aquatics, even though that was brought up this morning, that maybe that doesn't do any good. I beg to differ. I think any movement does a body good, especially your brain. And I'll get into it in a few minutes, but there's something called neuroplasticity, and let me tell you, aquatics can help. Pilates, mindfulness, we'll talk about that. Stress management, diet and nutrition, and smoking cessation. Anyone in this room smoke, you do not have to raise your hand. But if you do, stop. Stopping smoking is the best thing you could do for your body and your brain, regardless of your MS, but especially because of your MS. So some of the frequently asked questions about wellness and MS happen to be, comprehensive wellness strategies are important to general health. Therefore, are they beneficial for MS? Vast and complex array of information, is it fact or is it opinion? How about diet, exercise, and mood? Current research suggests that benefits MS. So does that mean it's all applicable? And that's why we put together the wellness initiatives in MS that I believe was launched this past January. This is a quote from Cindy, the president of and CEO of the Society. Through continued strategic focus, the Society looks forward to driving research and programming to deliver important wellness solutions in the areas of diet, exercise, and mood that will help people with MS live their best lives. The reason they chose those areas of diet, exercise, and mood is because on the website, social media, and all over, those were the three primary topics that people with MS were talking about and questioning about and having concerns about. So that's why the focus was there. In this meeting, our objectives were, we reviewed the current evidence around diet, exercise, and mood. We talked about interventions. We talked about gaps in knowledge. We talked about opportunities to develop society-wide approaches because we started to see and learn that, let's say, our chapter here in Illinois wasn't necessarily doing what the chapters in California were doing, or in Florida, or in Canada, and how wonderful it would be if we had the same toolkit across the board for everyone to use. So we're all on the same page, we're all in the same channel, and we're all learning together and supporting one another. There were a group of about 65 of us. It was made up of physicians, researchers, and people like me who have MS. Current evidence, insufficient and inconclusive to establish efficacy or effectiveness in MS when it comes to special diets, supplements, exercise programs, mindfulness. That's what research is going to try to prove. But in the meantime, we ask that question again. If it's good for other people when they're normally healthy, can it be beneficial for those of us who have MS? I myself say yes. I've been diagnosed for 9.5 years. I do all of it. And look at me. I feel like I'm the walking example that it works. And I haven't had a relapse for years. Yes? I can't hear you, I'm sorry. Your son's had it for 20 years, and for 15 years he didn't have anything. And I'm repeating so everybody can hear. He exercises and he eats everything right. and just at once it came. And it can. Sadly, that's the nature of the beast. The key component that I want to stress while we talk about wellness, it's like what I said when I first started. Wasn't I doing everything right? Doesn't that mean I'm okay? Doesn't that mean I'm protected? Doesn't that mean nothing's going to happen? No. It means it's less likely to happen, and or when it happens, maybe it won't be as severe. But the reality is, we are human, we are fallible, and life happens. And we can't control all of life, because let me tell you, if we could, we wouldn't be sitting here right now, because not one of us would have MS. Potential barriers that were discussed, and these were really important when we were trying to figure out how are we going to move forward as a society. We were talking about the barriers, and it was cost of research and trials. Money, it all boils down to money. Patient adherence, Dr. Model mentioned that this morning. How do we know that the patient is doing what they say they're doing? Some patients with their doctors are a little embarrassed to say, you know what, I exercised 5 days last week. It was really 2. But I don't want to tell anybody that, because you don't want to be embarrassed or humiliated. So how do we get patient adherence, especially to disease-modifying therapies? It's really hard because sometimes if somebody's having stomach upset or they're having severe reaction to whatever they're taking, they might stop. There's no way to control that. Another barrier is the reviewers who do the grant proposals. We want to make sure that they're knowledgeable, that they're not just reading these and saying, well, I don't know what it means, so do I vote no? Do I vote yes? And attitudes. So many times I hear, well, come on, we know it's good for you, so why bother? Well, we don't know that it's good for you if you have MS. We know if it's good for you if you're a normal, healthy person. So yes, we have to bother. And we, collectively, are the ones who have to speak up when people say, I don't understand. As a whole, we have to be educating people. I strongly urge you, if you don't already, when people ask you how you are, if they're in your inner circle, be honest. You don't have to be dramatic, but be honest. Explain to them, you know what, I'm having a hard day. My brain is just not engaging today. It's a tough one. Hopefully tomorrow will be better. Not, oh, I'm fine. Because people need to understand what MS is. The outcomes and the potential next steps from the Wellness Initiative meetings that we had a year ago were to develop and disseminate a white paper, which I believe did go out earlier this year. Research to consider forming a North American MS research network. And then, of course, programs, long-term society programs that are interventions for wellness. And my favorite is to develop a toolkit, which I'm going to give you a couple tools in your own little toolkit, mini one, today before we leave. So in the meantime, the society is moving forward. They launched this initiative, and they are going to do what they can. They announced this morning all the monies that they're putting into it, right, into research and what have you. But so what are we going to do now? What about in the meantime? You got to sort through your own chaos, right? What treatment? What diet? What exercise? New normal. How many of you have heard people say you now have a new normal? Yeah, quite a few, right. But think about this for just a second. You have a new normal because you have MS. But doesn't everybody kind of have a new normal depending on what happens to them? Does it really have to be a disease? Could it not just be that you're a little older and the body is not as willing to do what we want it to do? So we got a new normal to deal with every decade we deal with? So a new normal isn't necessarily a bad thing. It could be a good thing because you can redefine how you want to be in the world and how you want to show up. And then the kicker, whose expert opinion is best? Is it Rob Model, who spoke this morning? Is it Dr. Wynn who spoke this afternoon? Is it your doctor who you see however often you see them? Is it your internist? Is it your nutritionist? Is it your trainer? Is it your best friend? Is it your minister or your rabbi? It's all of them. Only you can determine which is really best for you. That's your role, is to listen to everybody and then weigh what works for you, because you know your body best. So what can we do about this now, today? First and foremost is adherence to your disease-modifying therapies. I can't tell you again how many people I talk to who say, ugh, I quit taking that. I'm just going to do the good diet. I know that if I eat paleo, I'm going to get rid of this MS and I'm never going to have to worry about it again. What do you think happens? Yes, they have an exacerbation. Not always, but sometimes. That to me is playing Russian roulette with your life. If you believe it will really work, I say go for it, because again, you are the master of your body. But I believe that adherence to disease-modifying therapies is super important. Healthy diet. I'm going to touch upon some of the things that are a healthy diet in general, and that we think is applicable to MS, but certainly cannot hurt your MS. And this morning they touched upon it, so when we get to it, you'll hear some repetitive things. And then exercise. That was this morning, right? It's all about exercise. Trying to do at least 2 days a week. I say try to move as much as you can. And exercise doesn't have to mean running a marathon. Exercise is movement, any kind of movement. If you're in a wheelchair, you still can use your arms. So somehow use your arms to get your heart rate up a little bit. Sorry. When you can walk, walk. You don't have to run. Anything you can do that gets the heart rate moving. Wheel yourself around. Go around the block. My father recently had major heart surgery. The thought of walking out the door of the house to the end of the courtyard, much less to the driveway, was so daunting. So I said to him, walk from your library to the kitchen. We'll start there. And I made him do that a couple times a day, and it was hard. Now he's walking up to a mile. It took him 6 months. Who cares? He's doing it. And you can too. Just don't give up on yourself. We all tend to give up on ourselves so easy and so quickly. Please don't do that. Have faith in yourself. Love yourself. By moving, you're going to feel better. Initially, you're going to be like, oh my God, I can't do this. It hurts. Well, guess what? Once you do it a few times, it feels really good. And nurture your mood and your spirit. So often that part gets overlooked. Our spirituality, whether you're religious or not, is super important because it takes you out of your zone and brings you into the universe that something is greater than you, and it's not just about us, it's about everyone. It's about the whole, not the part. Take care of your body. It is the only place you have to live. But then there's this little annoyance in our brains, right? Denial. And I love this. It says, I know that when one door closes, another always opens. But man, these hallways are a bitch. Because they are. We're struggling. It's tough. It isn't easy. Nobody gave us a map. And geez, did anybody give anybody a flashlight? But we make it. Our struggles make us stronger. Our struggles give us faith in ourselves. And I keep saying, hang in there, keep breathing, keep putting one proverbial foot in front of the other, because you do make it out of that hallway, and you do make it to that other door that opened up. And you must be willing to let go of the life you had planned so that you can have the life that is waiting for you. And that's not just with MS, that's with anything and everything in life. If we stayed the same, would you be happy? I think we'd all be bored out of our minds. Things got to change all the time. We're constantly growing. We're constantly changing. It takes a village. How many of you have heard of integrative medicine? Okay, a few of you. Integrative medicine treats the whole body. It treats you as the person, not you as a disease. Which is really kind of interesting because most people feel when they go to the doctor is treating them as a diseased person. Integrative medicine treats you, the person, who maybe happens to have a disease. Hear the difference? It's a big difference, and it's an important difference. And if you start looking at yourself from an integrative standpoint, you get the whole concept of mood, diet, and exercise. And with a little help from your family and friends, I know for me, I learned that I was not damaged or broken. Because when I was first diagnosed, first thing I said to one of my brother's friends was, "Who would ever want to date me? I'm broken now." I've learned that's not true. If anything, I'm stronger and more put together than I ever was. I also learned, as many of you feel, that I have MS, but MS does not have me. So to invest in a well life is really super important, right? And I'm not saying necessarily you have to invest money. Most importantly, you have to invest time and effort. And with the toolkit for self-care, I'll give you a few tidbits here, and you can then talk to your doctor further about it. Between that and support from your family and friends, who here has all support from family and friends? Wonderful, wonderful. A good fair amount. I know that when I was first diagnosed, this is really important to listen to. I ended up losing a lot of friends. But what I learned in the end is they weren't really my friends. Because imagine a box. Imagine I'm in this box with MS. And someone comes up to me and says, "How are you?" And I say, "You know what? I'm not doing so well. I've got MS." And they, instead of standing there and saying, "Oh, wow," they go, "Oh my gosh." They jump in the box with me and they start saying, "You know, I have it too. And you wouldn't believe how it affects me and how many problems I have. And oh my gosh, and if you just had my life, you wouldn't even be complaining at all." And meanwhile, you haven't said a word. What you really want is a friend who's going to stand there outside your box and say to you, "So how you doing?" "Oh God, you know, I've got MS. It's been a hard day. I'm really tired." And then that friend from the outside will say, "Well, how can I help?" That's a true friend. How can I help? What can I do to help you? Not making it about them. That's the support system that you need. That's the support system that you want. You can keep the other friends, but they're not the ones who will be there for you in the pinch. So how do you put together a team of experts? People ask me this all the time because a lot of people really don't understand how to do it. Start with your medical. I always say the doctor, whether it's your neurologist or your internist, is your gatekeeper. The gatekeeper tells you what's right, what's wrong, what you can, what you can't, and what you can certainly try because it couldn't hurt. But they're the ones with the most knowledge. Make sure that your medical person, whether it's your internist and or your neurologist, is someone you really trust. Have a relationship with them. And remember, if you don't like them, change. They are not God, contrary to popular belief. From the gatekeeper, you move into nutrition, exercise, and spirituality. 1, 2, or 3 of those Start small, start one, build. If you can't afford a nutritionist, talk to your doctor about who might be someone to follow online. Complementary. For example, I follow Dr. Andrew Weil from the University of Arizona School of Integrative Medicine. He promotes eating a Mediterranean diet. The Mediterranean diet causes low inflammation, and inflammation is the nemesis for MS. I don't believe personally in extremes like paleo and, oh gosh, I can't think of all the other names, but I don't do gluten-free because I don't have celiac, and I don't cut anything out completely. I do everything in a balance and in a moderation. Exercise, we talked about that this morning. I've just mentioned it here. Move, whatever you do. Get in a pool if a pool is where you're comfortable. Get on the street. Here's a great thing. Let's say you want to exercise, but you really don't want to exercise because you're really tired and enough is enough for the day, right? Try my 10-minute rule. Lace up your gym shoes, put on your jacket if it's cold, go outside, walk to the end of the driveway, walk a few more feet. 10 minutes. And if after that 10 minutes you're done, go home, be done. But if you're not, go another 10 minutes. And maybe you can do a total of 30 minutes. But at least try. And if getting to the end of the driveway is the challenge, because I know for some people that is a challenge, just go to the end of the driveway. And most importantly, when you've done it, congratulate yourself, because it's wonderful. You did it. You took time out to be good to your body. And your body appreciates it, trust me. Spiritual, we're going to get into this a little bit more detail in a couple of slides, but spiritual is really important because mindfulness is super important to your brain health. Research shows out of Harvard, Stanford, and a bunch of other places that meditation, mindfulness, and any kind of spiritual practice increases the gray matter in your brain and increases the neuroplasticity, which I'll touch upon again in a few minutes. But neuroplasticity is the fact that our brain is malleable, and it means we can grow new pathways. So pretty cool. We might not be able to heal what got damaged, but we'll circumvent them with new ones. Then there's also healing energy, life management, life transitions. Things like healing prayer, Reiki, healing touch, psychologists, any of those things are applicable in these categories. And then there's creative arts and metaphysical. Did you know that art is therapy? Art stimulates the right side of your brain. So most of us are left-brained. So doing anything on the creative side stimulates something that you've never done before up here. Again, really promoting the brain health and brain growth. And then what are we missing here? What's the most important part of your team? Anyone? Say that louder. You. Yes. Of course. Because guess what? There may be a gatekeeper, but you're the one who's the advocate. You are the one who works with that gatekeeper. You're the one in charge. You have every right to say yes or no or maybe. So a few tips that I'm going to share today. So you go home with something that you can actually use and do and apply now that you have all this plethora of information. That's Andy Weil, by the way, when I met him at his Nutrition and Health Conference. Medical nutrition, exercise, and cognition is what we're going to touch on, because I want to end in about 7 minutes so that we have time for questions. Medical, first and foremost, I already talked about it. You need to be your own advocate. Don't let anyone else do it for you unless they know exactly what you want. Then it's okay. But speak up. Doctors are not God. Eliminate the white coat syndrome. I love that little thing. The cure for white coat hypertension is a little spa bath, a little, juice, and just relaxing in the big easy chair. Because how many of you get kind of freaked out because you're at the doctor's office? Yeah, it's common, it's normal. What I like to do now is I always try to arrive at the doctor's a few minutes early, and I sit in the waiting room before I even check in and give them my name, and I just kind of do a few deep breathing, slow in, slow out, slow in, slow out, and I chill. And then I'm good. Know your 411. It's very important that we all know our information. Earlier today, they were talking about vitamin D. Know your vitamin D level. It's really important, especially with MS. If you don't know, you might want to ask about something called your C-reactive protein, CRP. It measures the inflammation in your blood. It's very important to know that number because with MS, we tend to run very high in inflammation. And through diet, exercise, spirituality, disease-modifying therapies, and all of the above, you can lower that CRP, which is what you want to do. Average numbers should run between 3 and 4. Most people with MS run in the 5s and 6s, and yet people with MS, it's probably healthier if they run in the 1s to 2s. It's not a test your doctor's going to do unless you ask. Know your blood pressure, know your cholesterol, know all the numbers that really matter. Your blood pressure. These are important. These are as important as your phone number, your social security number, your credit card number, and your driver's license number, because they make up who you are. And if you can't remember them, that's okay. Write them down. I do little cards that I keep in my wallet, and I keep my medications, my allergies, and my numbers on those cards. That way, when I go to the doctor, it's all readily available. Adhere to your disease-modifying therapies. I've covered that, not going to do more. Be an informed patient. You and your doctor are a team. Read articles. If you don't understand it, take it into your doctor's office with you. Talk about it. I bring up research all the time to my doctor and say, explain this to me, or what do you think of this, or does this apply to me? Ask questions. They love it. They want you to ask questions. The more informed you are, the better team you guys make. Nutrition. It's sad. Our standard American diet is sad. Why is it sad? It's because this is our food pyramid, but do we really stick to it? No. Should we stick to it? Not so much. And I'll tell you why in a second. But here it's about vegetables, fruits, grains, protein, dairy, and it's all subsidized. It's all determined by government money. What it should look like is have water and healthy fats. It should have the fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and protein, but it should also have relationships, career, physical activity, and spirituality. Why? It's not just about what we eat and what we put in our mouth. It's about why we do that. Are we eating because we are giving ourselves nutrition? Or are we eating because we're squelching our emotions? Or are we eating because we are stressed? It's like, I got to tell you, I had a really hard day at work, and that chocolate chip cookie was screaming my name. And it tasted good. So I say, eat less crap. Here's a great take-home. No more crap. No more carbonated drinks, no more refined sugar, no more artificial sweeteners, and no more processed foods. That one's tough, right? But try to minimize it. Shop the perimeter of the grocery store when you're out and about. Don't shop the inside aisles unless you have to. Those should be your minimum. Make sure your grocery cart is 2/3, maybe half, I'll give you that, but at least half from the produce section. Eat real food, fruits and veggies, organic lean proteins, omega-3 fatty acids, that's like your fish and that kind of thing, and lots and lots of water. Hydration is so important. Exercise and movement. You build your core strength, you have stability, right? Your brain and your heart, weight training, balance. Balance is important. Who practices balance? Oh, good. A few of you do. Wonderful. Stand on one foot, brushing your teeth. Make sure you're near something so that you don't fall, please. Balance can be getting dressed in the morning and not sitting down to put on your shoes and socks or getting into your pants. Balance is important. Balance is huge. Build that core stable so that if you do think you're going to fall, you either don't fall as harmfully and or you can catch yourself and you don't fall at all. Stave off MS-related disease symptoms or progression by exercising the body and the brain. I know they said that there's no research that proves it definitively, but it works for all of us who don't have MS. So I say until they know if it works for people with MS with the research they're going to do, it cannot hurt. It can only help. And if for some reason you think it is hurting, talk to your doctor. Energy, mindfulness, and meditation for your mood. This is another one of my favorite sayings, and it is, I am. Because whatever comes after that shapes your reality. So instead of, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can and I am. I am living well with MS. I am going to do whatever. I am. Be positive. Take the words can't, but out of your vocabulary. And remember that energy flows where your attention goes. Anybody practice mindfulness or know of the law of attraction? Hear of the law of attraction? Yeah, sort of. Okay. The law of attraction means what you think is what you attract. It's true. If you think negatively, you're going to attract the negative. If you think the positive, you're going to attract the positive. Energy is going to go where your attention goes. So if your attention stays in the positive, guess what? The energy is going to stay in the positive too. And that helps your body and your brain and your heart health as well. Some brain facts in case you had no idea what you've got upstairs. It's 3 to 4 pounds. It's 80% water. It's 20 to 25% oxygen and glycogen. 100 billion neurons. Consistency of soft butter, which is really cool because that way scientists discovered that there is something that is plasticity. It's malleable, it's flexible, it forms. So for all of us who get lesions in our brain and our synapses pathways get damaged and the myelin sheath goes kaflooey, as long as we practice all of the things I've just talked about, neuroplasticity kicks in and new neural pathways are formed. Nutrition for your brain. These are some of the foods you can start eating if you don't already. Salmon, blueberries, green or black tea, whole grains, kidney beans, almonds, dairy, avocado, turmeric, and guess what? Dark chocolate, for anybody who likes chocolate. 70% is best or more, but if it's, over 60%, I'll give it to you. It's brain food. Now, brain food, and this is all also antioxidants. You all hear about antioxidants, right? Do you understand why we eat antioxidants? They don't kind of talk about that so much, but we have something called oxidative stress, and that causes our cells to age. Eating antioxidants helps lessen that oxidative stress so our cells can be healthier and not age as quickly. So, with the chocolate, I'm just saying, my heart says chocolate, but my genes say, for the love of God, woman, eat a salad. And you know what I say to that? Chocolate comes from cocoa, which comes from a tree. That makes it a plant, so chocolate is a salad, the end. I don't know if you're with me, but I say so. If you take one thing home today, that's that. Chocolate counts as salad, okay? Boost your brain power. You can do it through puzzles, games, as we talked about, balance. Change your routine. If you go to the grocery store by turning left every day, can you go right and take a different path? If I go to the mailbox every day and I go around the cul-de-sac to the right, what would happen if I went to the left? Change your routine. Again, it promotes that neuroplasticity. And then getting adequate sleep. How many have sleep trouble? Yeah, it's really common. So do your best to get adequate sleep, and if you can't sleep, at least try and get some adequate rest. Talk to your doctor if it really is a problem, because sleep is huge in your health. Boosting your brain power through mindfulness. How many of you have your mind full? Or are you mindful? Mindful is being present to the moment. Mindful is being stressed. Focus on one thing at a time. Pay full attention, be present, and figure out where your distractions are coming from. Are you anxious? Are you worried? What's it about? And try and bring it to the center. Because remember, yesterday's over and done with. Tomorrow's never going to come. You've got to focus on just today. Putting it all together, you can live well with MS. I beg you to respect your unique self. Don't compare yourself to others. It's about lifestyle and a journey, which I'm sure you've heard a bazillion times, but it's true. This is not a race. No one's going to win or lose. As blunt as this is going to sound, we all have an expiration date. The question is when. We're all on our own journey. Consider the whole you, not the parts. And I want to end with this traditional saying of namaste, which means the light in me honors the light in you. We are all unique, individual, phenomenal human beings who are on our own individual journeys of wellness. And if we each honor the other, we have the power of the whole to get through it. So thank you very much. Namaste. And if you want to find me on social media, these are all my links, and I'll just leave that up for you to look at. So, are there questions? Sure. Okay. There are going to be 2 mics coming around if anybody has any questions. Just raise your hand. And if not, that's okay too, because I know it's late and you're probably exhausted.
My juice is right down here. I better warn you. This isn't actually a question, but when you were talking about the law of attraction, you reminded me of something that I heard in a sermon at church that I thought was kind of parallel to that, and that was, I became what I beheld. And I thought, and the priest was talking about what we surround ourselves with is so influential in how we live our day-to-day lives and our state of mind. And that's something that comes back to me all the time because I've seen it in my own life so often. And I thought if that can help anybody, the people and the things you surround yourself with can make a difference in your own mindset.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And it's really important to understand, too, to kind of add to that, is that we cannot change how everybody around us behaves. All we can do is control how we respond. And sometimes we react. And I say, choose to respond.
My attitude is I'm going to fight this. And I try every day to overcome the MS. I've had it for 16 years, diagnosed 16 years.
Okay.
And I've had symptoms 10 years before. But I'm determined to still walk. It hurts me to have to break down and get a scooter, but I only use it if I have to walk a long distance. I know a lot of people probably have the same problem, especially with heat. I
Sure.
just can't stand the heat, but I fight it. You know, I still try to keep on doing my daily things and that. And my attitude when I first found out about I had MS, I'm going to fight it.
Good
Not
girl.
going to let it overtake me.
Good girl. Fighting spirit is what you need. And I will say, too, that I've been reading lately, there's research going on. Now, who knows, time-wise, but they are doing research now on some medications that actually are showing to reverse the damage caused. So one can only hope that we'll be fortunate enough in our lifetimes to see that.
What's some good meditation and stress relievers for like the end of the day?
Could you repeat that? I didn't hear.
What's some good meditation and stress relievers for like the end of the day?
Oh, for the end of the day. Okay. Probably the easiest one is a deep breathing exercise. And I start slow. And if anybody wants to practice along to try it while we're here right now, what you want to do is you want to be sitting as upright as possible. And you want to deep breathe in to the count of 5. Actually, 4. You want to deep breathe into the count of 4, hold it for 5, and then exhale through the mouth for 7. And then you want to deep breathe for 4 through your nose, hold it for 5, and then deep breathe out for 7. The only reason you don't want to do it too much initially is you can get lightheaded, and that's not good. And then you could do it with your eyes closed, you could do it with your eyes open. But deep breathing like that initially, after you've done it a couple times, you can actually feel, if you feel it your neck or your wrist, you'll feel your pulse start to slow. And that's a really good beginning. To get more ideas, you can go either to Andy Weil's site, or you can just Google deep breathing, easy meditation. Sometimes with meditation, it's hard because we can't turn our minds off because we all think so much. So a great thing to do too is to try to sit in a quiet room. You could have a little music in the background if it helps. And just close your eyes, be in a comfortable position, and just be. And every time your mind starts to wander, acknowledge those thoughts that are going through your mind. Hey, okay, I know you're there. Hello. And then go back to paying attention to your breath. And just even say out loud to in your mind, inhale, exhale. And no matter what you're thinking, acknowledge it, don't judge it. And go back to the inhale and the exhale. Try doing that for 5 minutes. Try building up to where you can do that for 15 minutes a day. Okay? Anybody else in the back? Wait, there's a mic.
When I meditate, I find that when my mind starts to race and I start to think about what to get for at the grocery tomorrow or whatever it is, I kind of move my head back and forth a little bit, and it kind of erases the thoughts for a moment, and then you kind of go back into the
That's your
meditation.
technique. What
Yeah,
I
know it can be
really
for
think is
anybody.
the best thing for people is to focus on the words inhale, exhale as they breathe in and breathe out, because some people can't control the movement of their head one
True.
way or
Yeah.
another. So I like to kind of leave movement out of it, but whatever works for you
Okay.
is what works for you, and that's good. So thank you for sharing.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Did you have a question? She asked the same thing? Okay. Anybody else? Well, thank you so much for spending your afternoon with me. I really do appreciate it, and I hope that I gave you a few nuggets that you can go home with and that help you.
Thank you again,
I'm on the
Barbara.
microphone.
You can turn your completed surveys